So Brian May is our first guest for Rockline and a brand new series. Brian, it's great to have you in the studio.
Thank you. This is very exciting.
Welcome to 1FM. The first of a series, also quite nerve-wracking as well.
We're not nervous, are we? No, we don't care.
We're going to have a great time. And we're going to have a lot of calls, hopefully, as well. A lot of people have been calling 081 200 4444. And the good thing is you can still call and talk to Brian. I just want to ask a couple of questions myself, if I can. You and your father apparently made your first guitar hand-carved from a 19th century fireplace. Was that your own fireplace or somebody else's?
Somebody else's, as a matter of fact. Yes, everybody thinks that was made up. They say, oh, there's this old legend, but it's true, folks, yes.
Yeah, was that your very first musical instrument?
Not the very first. I got a guitar for my 7th birthday as a kid, but that's the first one that was a serious instrument in a way, and I still use the thing, which is very surprising because it was only made really as an experiment, I guess, in a way, but it's been around the world many times with me now, and it's still holding up, folks.
You always remember your first instrument. Let's get on with the calls, because we've got loads coming in this afternoon. We want to take as many as we can. Call 1 to Rockline is Tim Boyce from Devon. Tim, what's your question for Brian May this afternoon?
Hi, Brian.
Hello, Tim.
Something you wrote in the 70s. Would you agree that it is popular as 90s music?
Would I agree what, sorry?
Would you class it as popular as the 19th Queen music compared to its changes?
I don't know quite how to answer that, really. I think we've changed quite a lot, and music's changed quite a lot, but we're still around somehow.
Yeah.
OK. Purser Williams, Kent, is our call too this afternoon. Thank you, Tim. Question from you, Purser.
Hello.
Purser? Hello?
Hi, which
Hi.
guitarists or musicians have had the most influence on you over the years, and why?
Which guitarist influenced me?
Yes.
Did you say? Well, Jimi Hendrix more than anyone else, I guess, probably. But a lot of the records that I listened to when I was a kid were things like Elvis Presley and the Everly Brothers, and they had people on them whose names I didn't know but were very influential on me. I'd have to say Jeff Beck as well, and Mr. Clapton, who's still out there, you know, and still an amazing example.
If I had to ask you in one name, if you could tell me your absolute hero as far as rock musicians go, who would it be?
I guess John Lennon, really, as an overall musician, not just because of his music, but because of the sense of responsibility and the way that he put himself so honestly into his music.
So John Lennon.
I think so.
Great. I think the best thing to do to start the show musically with Rockline this afternoon, with you in the studio, is to play a song that you're currently in the charts with. Too Much Love Will Kill You from Brian May on Rockline on a Sunday afternoon. You from Brian May, he's our first guest for Rockline. Nice to have you in the studio, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite enough of that, then.
You can call 081...
Moving right along, then.
200 4444. We're going to play loads of your songs, don't worry. Actually, we're going to take a couple of songs that you've chosen as well, as we will with all of our Rockline guests. 8 after 3, Darren Potter's up next this afternoon. Darren, what's your question?
Yeah, hello, Brian.
Hi, Darren. Thank you for calling.
Love your latest album.
Oh, great. Thank you.
On subject of your guitar, a few years ago, I was inspired by you, and I built a copy of your guitar. I've made it out of solid mahogany, and I got the proper DiMarzio pickups, and they're all wired up in serial.
Amazing.
The problem is, it just doesn't. I can't get your sound. I know I've got cheap amplification. I haven't got 80s, 30s, but I know that when you use the bridge and the middle pickup out of phase, that you say that's your favourite, and you get a lot of scream. Mine just doesn't scream. It sounds sort of wishy-washy.
It's probably too difficult a problem to sort out at the moment on the air. Why don't you write me a letter? Care of Jackie at the fan club, and mark it guitar special or something, you know, and I'll probably write back to you in about 3 years' time.
Oh, you get your own personal reply from Brian.
Seriously, I could maybe sort it out if you tell me exactly.
Yeah,
it's probably something very simple, you know.
It's probably down to the values of the pots and resistors.
Could well be, yeah. Well, stick in there and write me a letter. Yeah.
Thank you, Darren.
My wife are your biggest fans ever.
Oh, cheers. Thank you.
You make sure you write a letter to Brian. Charmian Williams is next up this afternoon from Burnley. Charmian, what's your question for Brian May?
Oh, hello, Brian.
Hello, Charmian.
Hello. I love the album.
Thank you.
The chat before. And I'm one of these people that likes to read all the sleeve notes on people's albums.
I gave you lots to read on mine, didn't I?
You certainly did. And the question is quite simply, there are a lot of very nice things on there. There are things you've said with a lot of feeling about friends who've inspired you, and of course the dedication of the album to people who've gone. So could you just sort of tell me a little bit about what people really mean to you?
Well, I was brought up in a way using the other side of the brain. I was brought up very scientifically in a way, very analytically. That's the way my career was headed, I guess. But there was a time in my life where I just decided that I had to make the jump, and I'd always played music. And music is really about people, because to me it's the most international language, and it's in some senses the most direct, because you get straight to people's feelings through music in a way. So to me, I can't really separate the two. You know, music is life, and life is people, and that's what I'm about. And I much prefer to be in this life than be in the other one. You know, I had a good time with physics and maths and astronomy and everything, but I prefer to do what I do now, which I feel is like close to the pulse of people, I guess. I don't know if that answers your question, but I feel like I'm going more and more that way.
Thank you, Charmian, for your call this afternoon. So that's what those people mean to you. What does Smokey Robinson mean to you?
I played this record until it was transparent, I think, through the other side. I don't think I really understood what it was about at the time. I just had this feeling washing over me. But now it makes more sense to me as a tentatively grown-up person. Have a listen to this.
It would seem a good time to play a Smokey Robinson The Miracles track, right?
Definitely.
All right, we'll do just that. Tracks to Your Tears, 1FM, 311. Tracks for My Tears, Smokey Robinson and The Miracles. Thought we ought to play a couple of your choices this afternoon, at least as well as some Brian May songs as well. We were talking just a couple of seconds ago about one particular question that you always get asked. I've got a feeling you might be asked it now. David Keeley's calling from Aberdeen.
You know something I don't know, obviously.
What's your question, David, to Brian May?
Brian.
Hello, Dave.
I'd like to ask you why you wear clogs, particularly white
You're
clogs.
kidding. It's very strange you should ask that. Well, there's no decent answer to that question, except they're very comfortable and they stop my feet from becoming obnoxious.
Can I just say that I wear clogs too, and I think that it stops your feet becoming smelly.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for making such a good album. I'm very pleased with it. It's really good.
Oh,
Thanks
cheers.
for being such a big influence on my life. It's been nice listening to your records over the years, and I wish you many more years of making good records.
Glad you
Oh,
appreciate
wonderful.
the album.
Thanks, mate.
Glad you appreciate the clogs as well, I guess, Brian. David Keeley, thank you. Richard Walsh is up next from Southampton this afternoon. Richard, your question for Brian May.
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Richard.
Yeah, a little while ago you did an LP, mini LP, Starfleet,
Yes.
with Van Halen and Phil Chen.
Yes.
How did that come about, and are you likely to do any more blues-type music?
Interesting question. It came about because I was at one of those kind of crisis points, which happens to me every now and again in life, and I just thought if I don't get up and do something this morning, I'm going to die of frustration or whatever. It was quite a few years ago, and I just literally got on the phone to all those people who were really my favourite players at the time and said, how about coming down and doing a bit of playing around? And I was prepared. I wrote some stuff for the sessions, but I wanted to leave it free. So it's literally 2 days, that session. Strangely enough, you should mention it because we're thinking of putting it out as a B-side to the next single, you know, in 2 different lots, in fact. It's all very complicated, but apparently this is what record companies do these days. So if you want to buy the new single, I think you need to buy 2 versions of it or whatever. Then the whole of the Starfleet album will finally be on CD, which makes me very happy.
Great.
The other thing is blues. I always feel very close to blues, and I had quite a struggle to sort of keep this album on course because I didn't want this to be a blues album. I wanted it to be kind of a personal statement in a way. So the blues tracks that I did, I've kept behind for later, and I very much hope to keep it in my life. I just wanted this album to have a particular content. You know, I wanted it to have the whole range of emotions, and the blues stuff has to come later, I think.
All right, Richard Walsh, thank you for your call this afternoon. I think it's about time we played something from the Back to the Light album then. This is a track with Cozy Powell. It's called Resurrection. A Sunday afternoon with Neil James on 1FM, 20 minutes past 3. We're going to bash straight on with the calls because we have so many coming in on 081 200 4444 this afternoon. Swat Prabhu's calling from Merseyside this afternoon. Swat, what's your question for Brian?
Hi, Brian.
Hello, Swat. How are you?
Hiya, congratulations on the 2 singles on the album.
Oh, thank you.
Right, the album, it's obviously very personal. Were the songs, were they written spontaneously, or did they need to be thought about quite carefully? Because there's something that even I can relate to, being 15 myself.
Interesting. I guess a bit of both. You know, they were pretty spontaneous, but once the thing is out there in front of you and no longer inside your head, then you start to work on it to make it a proper song, I guess.
Yeah.
They all start off as being personal feelings, but I feel that if people buy the record, that it should not be just like somebody buying a diary. You know, you should write things in a form that people relate to. And it pleases me if people say, like you just said, you know, that you feel something for yourself in there. I hope that people listen to the stuff and think, hey, that's actually me in there, and that throws some light on something that's happened to me. That's what I would like.
Swab, thank you for your call this afternoon. We'll continue talking about music. Judy 2's calling from Bedford. What's your question, Judy?
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Judy.
Hello, how are you?
Very good, thank you.
Very good. It's a brilliant album, Back to the Light. It's,
Thank you.
It's strong. You can really relate to it. I was just wondering if you got another one in the not-too-distant future.
Or more work.
God, dear me, no, I don't fancy making another one of those. It'll be a while, I think. I want to do the other stuff now. I would like to get out on tour, and with that in mind, I've been talking to the Heavy Mob, to Cozy Powell and Neil Murray, and I think we'll be going down to somewhere distant, probably South America, in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, great.
And we'll get ourselves worked up and rehearsed and everything. And if all goes well, we would like to come back here in some form and play, let's say, the spring. I think that would be about right.
Oh, brilliant. Can you remember telling my husband to watch Tony Iommi and learn to play the guitar left-handed?
Remember that?
Of course I can remember. Like it was yesterday.
As if he would forget. As if he would forget. Thank you for your call, Judy, this afternoon.
Cheers, Judy.
Clive Townsend's next up from Devon this afternoon. Clive, what's your question for Brian May on Rockline?
Hi, Brian.
Hello, Clive.
Hi. You've achieved so much in the last 20 years. What musical ambitions do you still wish to achieve?
I just want to, at the moment, do something a bit more personal, which is what this album is aimed towards, because I spend a lot of my life being part of a sort of corporate vision. I'm very proud of what Queen has been, and I think we've done some things which are quite important in their own way.
Brilliant.
But I wanted to do something which, for the first time, was purely me, and this album is the first time I had where I was responsible for every note on there. It's a very different feeling. So I guess there's a few things that I feel I would like to say personally, but most of all, just to make better music.
Thanks for your call, Clive, this afternoon. We're playing some of the songs that you've chosen. I want to know why you've chosen Jimi Hendrix. I mean, the track itself is absolutely superb. I'm not going to talk over the intro. I want you to tell me before we play it.
It always just gets me every time. Jimi Hendrix is known to a lot of people for making a lot of noise, but the incredible sensitivity of his guitar playing is sometimes overlooked, you know, and this track is just so emotional and so daring because it's so completely naked. I think it's just one of the finest examples ever of a piece of guitar playing, and a beautiful song. You know, the best guitar playing is done in the context of a real song, and this is a good example too.
So what's the track called?
This is called Little Wing.
Lovely. 081 200 4444 this afternoon. If you'd like to talk to Brian May, who is really getting into that track, I can tell you.
Tears to your eyes, don't it?
Great. We'll get straight through these calls. We're going to take a couple before we look at the news at 3:30 this afternoon. Kevin Egan's calling from Manchester this afternoon. What's your question for Brian May on Rockline, Kevin?
Hi,
Ken, sorry. Ken Egan, isn't it?
It is, thanks.
Hi, Ken.
Brian,
Yeah.
you said you'd be doing some blues material, hopefully, in the future.
Yes.
I just wondered, from things like Sleeping the Sidewalk in the past and Dreamer's Ball,
Yeah.
who you would like in the band to play, you know, that sort of stuff with you if you could have anyone.
There's a question.
I was thinking especially of maybe another guitarist.
Blind Blake, I think, would be my first choice.
Why?
I don't think they'll be able to find him, though. He's lost somewhere in the Mississippi Delta.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'd probably settle for somebody, you know, not very well known, like Eric Clapton, something like that. You know.
Somebody who needs a start, really, then.
I tell you,
Eric Clapton.
Yeah, there's so many great players. That's a difficult choice to make. Peter Green was always one of my favourites as well. I think he had a lot of soul. You know, he's someplace else now and he's doing something completely different. But the stuff he left behind is incredible.
Ken, just very quickly, who would you choose? Just give me one name.
Snowy White, I think.
Snowy White.
Yes, fine player.
That's a good
idea. Right.
Write that one down. Ken Egan, thank you for your call this
Thanks, Ken.
afternoon. Mandy Burnell's up next from Warrington. What's your question, Mandy?
Hello, Brian.
Hi, Mandy.
Hello. In the last Fan Club magazine, it mentioned there might be a new Queen album released before Christmas. I wondered if you could confirm that for us, please.
Did it say that?
Yes.
Well, there won't be a new Queen album for quite a long time because the only stuff that remains that Freddie sang on is still sitting there.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us really feel quite up to doing it yet, but I think sometime next year we get in there and finish off those tracks. So there may be a Queen album sometime like next Christmas, you know, not this Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else is being done. The only other thing that we're working on for immediate release is a video of the Freddie tribute, which our engineers have been mixing this week.
Yeah.
So we hope to have that out for Christmas, which is actually much more exciting than I expected. I was kind of dreading seeing it after not looking at it for a while, but it's great, and I'm very pleased that people will be able to see that. We've got permission from most of the artists, you know, to put them out, so that's something to look forward to.
We look forward to that. Thank you for your call this afternoon, Mandy. 081 200 4444 is the number. You can keep calling that to talk to Brian May this afternoon. I think it's about time we had a fashion question. Ruth Craig is calling. Ruth, what's your question?
Don't ask me fashion questions.
I'd like to know, is your hair naturally curly?
Oh, there we go.
Yes, it's naturally curly, and probably will remain so until it all falls out.
We had a question.
That's all it does. I used to hate it so much when I was a kid. You know, everybody hates what they are naturally, don't they? So I used to iron it and straighten it and all sorts of stuff. But now I just let it do its thing, and it seems to be okay.
We had a talk earlier about your hair catching on fire once, so I thought it was about time we had a hair question. 081 200 4444 is the number you can call this afternoon. Keep calling that, because you can talk to Brian May, and hopefully we'll squeeze in as many as we can between 3:30 and 4 o'clock this afternoon. I want to ask you a very quick question before we head to all the news at 3:30. Do you get any time for hobbies or interests? And if you do, what are they?
Not a lot, really, but luckily my hobby really is music, I guess. I mean, I do get paid for doing what I love doing best, so I'm okay, really. Just living life is enough, really. You know, if you're trying to make the best of, you know, if you're trying to look after your partner properly, and if you're trying to look after your kids properly, when you're my age, that's just about all you can manage a lot of the time. I mean, I love to get out in the garden and dig. It's very therapeutic for me.
So a secret gardener at heart?
Yes, absolutely, but I don't do it very much these days. And I'm also totally passionate about stereo photographs from the 1900s and the late 1800s, which I collect, and that's a passion too. But again, it gets kind of submerged because at the moment I'm very busy.
So there are a couple of hobbies and passions in your life. It's 3:30 on 1FM. Stick around, Brian. We'll chat some more in a moment. It's Mallory Girl with the news at 3:30. Hammered at 4. It is Queen. Brian May is in the studio this afternoon, our very first Rockline guest. You can call on 081 200 4444, but you better make it quick. We have Paul Banks next up this afternoon. We'll get straight on with the calls, Brian. What's your question, Paul, for Brian May this afternoon?
Well, it's... hello, Brian.
Hi, Paul.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, well, you've answered the question about touring as a solo artist.
Yep.
But will you tour as with Queen? Well, with Roger and John?
It's very difficult. We've done a lot of talking about it, and at the moment I don't think anyone can really see how we can do it. It doesn't really make sense to go out and play with anyone else except Freddie, you know. It's a very knotty problem. I think we would like to play together somehow, but for the moment no one can find a solution. I don't actually know if there is one. I'd like to give you better news, but in a way I think it's quite good for us to get out individually for a while. I think we've been under this little umbrella for quite a long time, you know, and it's quite good for us to sort of grow up and get out there and take some chances again. But certainly if the right thing came along, you know, it would be nice to do something at the right point.
Thank you, Paul, for your question this afternoon. Kearney Ford is next up from Banff this afternoon. I think we might have touched on this subject, but Kearney, what's your question?
What age did you start playing the guitar?
Hi, Kearney. What age did I start? Roughly 7. Because my dad taught me... how old are you?
12.
Oh, right. Well, you've got loads of time. That's all right. Yeah,
Lots of time.
My dad taught me this instrument called the ukulele banjo, which was a famous George Formby thing. And I asked for the guitar for my 7th birthday and luckily got it. And I kind of just worked the chords out for 6 strings instead of 4 strings, and I went from there.
Kearney, do you play?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you do?
How long have you been playing?
About 2 years.
Oh, you're well on the way.
My teacher's moved away now, so I just play a bit in myself now.
All right.
A rock star in the making. Thank you, Kearney.
Keep on with it, and listen to everyone you can, I would say. You know, don't give up just because your teacher's gone away. Keep listening and trying things out, you know.
Thank you, Kearney, for your call this afternoon. You keep playing, as Brian said. Matthew Jackson next up. What's your question, Matthew, from London this afternoon?
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Matthew.
How long did it take you to complete your album, your new album?
A very long time, more than 5 years, in fact, which everyone goes "Ooh," about. But it sort of had to develop that way. I wasn't quite sure what I was doing at the beginning. In fact, I was deeply depressed, and I wrote this song called Back to the Light, really not understanding quite how I was ever going to be in the light again. So without going into great details, it took a long time to develop, and there was also a lot happening during that time. You know, there was a lot of work for Queen, and there was a lot of general sorting out to do, you know, and we also went through the time of losing Freddie, you know, so it seems like a lifetime ago that I started this album. I'm glad it's out. I'm glad it's... Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, for your call this afternoon. Do I need to ask you why you've chosen to play The Who and My Generation this afternoon? What a track.
Yeah, I can just remember the first time I heard it, I just freaked, and I remember me and my mate Tim on a number 9 bus up the top, you know, with a little transistor radio jumping about to it. I just thought it was the most incredibly exciting thing I'd ever heard at the time. I think it stands up pretty well as well. We'll have a listen, shall we?
Well, if you want to jump up and dance around now, be my guest. My Generation from The Who this afternoon. Brian May is our guest, and that brought back those double-decker days, didn't it?
Amazing. I think it's time for a Who revival as far as I'm concerned.
You were saying that. You think it'd be a big hit if it was released again?
I think there's a strong possibility, yeah. It was amazing to have Roger Daltrey on the concert with us. I mean, he was...
Oh, of course, yeah.
Quite a thrill, you know, because these guys really were heroes of ours. And it's very much like, you know, you guys out there now feel about Nirvana and... Guns N' Roses, you know, to us, The Who were the people who really expressed the sort of frustration and anger that we felt. And it was very genuine, so...
I can see that the way you enjoyed that track.
I love it.
Lisa Isles from Hertfordshire is calling this afternoon. Whereabouts in Hertfordshire, Lisa?
Houghton Regis.
OK, what's your question for Brian May?
Brian.
Hello, Lisa, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'd just quickly like to say, on behalf of my sister Tracy, who I know is listening, and myself, we've both been Queen fans for 17 years, and just like to thank you for all the wonderful music, and good luck with everything in the future.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much.
That's okay.
Much
I better get on
appreciated.
with my question now.
No, you can stay.
How do you manage to be so modest when Queen has been responsible, not only for changing music as we know it, but also for being a main influence and inspiration to bands like Extreme and Def Leppard?
Time for a bit of modesty, I think, Brian.
It's true. Well, I don't think I'm modest, really. I think I'm very opinionated, really. But it's nice to know that people like that did get influenced by us. I think the river flows on, you know, and we absorbed our influences, and these people absorbed us. It's good to know. I think music is alive and well, and I'm very happy about it.
It certainly is.
It's good times now. I really feel it's very good.
Lisa, thank you for your call this afternoon.
Lisa.
Not only UK-wide, but it seems Euro-wide this afternoon from France. We have Pascal Cornet. Is that Cornet? Would I say it like that?
Yeah.
All right. What's your question, Pascal?
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Pascal.
First of all, I want to thank you for your album, which is great.
Thank you. Are you calling from France?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Whereabouts in France?
In the north of France, about 30 miles from Calais.
Oh, I just wonder whether you were French or you were actually calling from France. What's your question for Brian this afternoon?
Yeah. I'd like to know if Brian is planning to play in France and touring this year.
I'm very excited about France, strangely enough, because I did my little promotional tour of Europe recently.
Yeah.
And France very often was quite difficult for Queen, you know, and we always felt a lot of, you know, there's a hard core of fans, which is wonderful, but there was a lot of reserve, you know. This time when I was there, I felt like there was a lot of excitement, and I would love to certainly tour in France once I get this band going, if we get it going right. That would be one of my first priorities. I'd like to do England and France, Germany and Holland, and take it from there. Yes, I would love to be there.
So, Pascal, you have something to look forward to. Thank you for your call this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Hall's calling from Liverpool. Oh, sorry, Barry Hall's calling from Liverpool. What's your question, Barry?
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Barry.
Hi, great. I actually was one of the extras on the Radio Gaga video.
Ah, good man.
It took, as far as I can remember, about 8 hours to film.
Yes, you were all very patient.
On the actual video, it probably lasts about 40 seconds.
Isn't that just the way?
What I was going to ask was, A, what is your favourite of the Queen videos, or did you find them all tedious to do?
I'm sure none of them were tedious, were they?
Yes, and yes, really. Yes, they're quite difficult for me. There's a lot of standing around making videos, but I think Gaga's probably my favourite, really. I think that there was a lot of input from all of us into it, and it just happened, you know, and there was a great feeling on the day from all you guys coming along. I think it stands up very well. There's a lot of our videos, which I won't even mention, which I really don't enjoy watching, you know. Sometimes I think you can destroy a song with a video, and we've been as guilty as anyone in that area. But I think that was a good one. I also like The Invisible Man. I don't know if you've seen that one. I think that one came off. That's
Brian,
a lot of fun.
Would it be possible to have a signed photograph of you, please?
Yes, I'm sending it down the phone line.
Listen, Brian, just keep your fingers crossed for 3 minutes, because I've got some news for you in just 3 minutes' time, all right? Have a listen to this. And I think you know what I'm talking about. And on a Sunday afternoon, going to try and get some more calls in here. I have this news for them. We've been teasing you long enough.
Stop this immediately.
Would you like to know your album position?
Yes,
for
yes,
the
come
album?
on then, come on.
Would you like to have a guess, first of all, just very quickly?
I've no idea.
Number 6.
Not bad.
Straight
Not
in number
bad.
6, which
How
is absolutely
wonderful.
superb, isn't it?
Thank you.
Tim Wilkinson from Mansfield
Brilliant.
this afternoon. What's your question?
Hello, Brian. Lovely to speak to you, mate.
Thank you for calling. How are you doing?
Not so bad, not so bad. Have you ever thought of making an LP of all the weird and wonderful stuff you did in the early 70s, like Big Spender and stuff like that?
No.
We have watched it, you know.
No, we haven't thought of that. I mean, I suppose it's a possibility. What I wouldn't like to happen is sort of dredging up every kind of outtake and stuff, which does happen in some cases, you know, like with Jimi Hendrix, you know. But certainly there was a lot of stuff that we did for fun, which probably wouldn't go amiss. I don't know how many people would actually want to go out and buy that stuff.
I think a lot of people, because, I mean, I've got most of the Queen videos, and watching you on there, sort of like when you were playing to sort of like 700 people instead of
right.
750,000, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we have got tapes going back to the very beginning, so I suppose at some point some of the early live stuff could go out. That's not a bad idea, actually.
All right, Tim, thank you for your call this afternoon. What about Gary Hayes from Bristol? What's your question, Gary?
Hello, Brian.
Hello, Gary.
Hello. There's been a lot of rumours going around that just before Freddie died, he recorded some material with you. I just wondered, how much did he record with you, if any?
There's a little. I would say 2 or 3 or 4 tracks, something like that, which we will work on eventually.
Okay.
All right.
And they're going to be released?
Yes, but not for a while yet.
So you'll have to wait a little while for that, Gary. Thanks for your call. 081 200 4444. If you dial now and be very quick, you could be talking to Brian May. We'll come back and take another couple of calls in just a couple of minutes' time. One Vision from Queen. Brian May is our first Rockline guest on a Sunday afternoon. Brian, we're going to shoot through a couple more questions.
Okay, Neil.
AQ is next from Luton this afternoon. Kay,
Hello.
what's your question for Brian May?
Hi.
Hello, Kay.
What is the worst thing that's ever happened to you on stage in front of a whole audience?
Well, most embarrassing or the worst mistake?
The worst mistake.
All right.
The worst thing that ever happened, I think, was in a place called Saarbrücken in Germany. And normally everything goes very smoothly on stage. You know, I say this without any hesitation, you know, but on this particular night, everything went wrong. A lot of silly little things, you know, but gradually you get wound up, and then eventually the monitor's completely packed up. Now, if your monitors go, you might as well die, you know, really, because you can't hear anything. So we came off that stage totally steaming, and all the instruments got thrown everywhere, which is very unlike us, I must say.
Rock and roll, if you like.
And the road crew got very upset with us, and it was the worst night of our lives. I mean, I think every time you mention Saarbrücken to anyone in the Queen camp, they'll go, because it's just something you don't want to think back on. You
They
know?
think of broken instruments. Thank you for your call this afternoon, Kay. Katie Wright is next up from Bristol once more. Katie, what's your question for Brian May?
Hi.
Hello, Katie.
What would you say is the best song you've ever written?
Well, I'm fond of We Will Rock You because it became so much part of sort of public life. It's got a sort of special feeling for me. I'm very keen on that. But I guess, I mean, I can't claim full credit for this, but Too Much Love Will Kill You, I think, is the best lyric that I've been associated with. I wrote it with 2 other people, Frank Musker and his lady, who did a fantastic job with me and acted as my kind of on-the-spot therapists, because the ideas were in my head, but I couldn't get them out at the time. So I would go for that one.
All right. Katie, thank you for your call. Chris Broom, we're going to try and squeeze in just one more very quickly. Chris from Staffordshire. What's your question?
Hi,
Chris.
Brian.
Hi, how you doing?
How did you go about getting your first recording contract with Queen?
It was very difficult. We were lucky enough to make some demos. I mean, this is cutting a very long story short, because for a long time we thrashed around in the dark. But we made some reasonable quality demos in return for a favour that we did for some people. And we took them round to all the record companies. They all said no, so we sort of took them round again and again and again. And eventually we found a production company to make the whole album and then take the whole stuff all the way around to the record companies again. So it was a long process. I would say 2.5 years in total, during which time we thought we'd lost it, you know.
And since then you've never looked back.
So don't give up, folks, you know.
Chris, thank you for your call this afternoon. And Brian, thank you for being our very first guest on Rockline.
Thank you, Neil. I've enjoyed it very much.
Pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for all those guys that phoned in.
Congratulations, number 6, which
Thank
is
you.
Your
Unbelievable. Thank you all those folks who went out and bought it. I don't know what to say, really.
I think we ought to play another track from it. What do you think?
Why not? I happen to know what you're going to play.
Brian,
this is the next single.
Thank you for coming in. The next single, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. We'll look forward to it. And let's hope that that's a big single success, too.
Thanks, Neil. All the best.
Next week, it's Curtis Tigers live in the studio. You can call Rockline next Sunday to talk to Curtis. And our thanks to Brian May this week.